When most people think of car maintenance, it means expensive shop visits, expensive repairs, expensive parts. Well, today I'm showing you 10 DIY car hacks that you can do at home with basic tools in your garage or your own driveway. No lift, no mechanic experience, and no big budgets. These life hacks can save you hundreds and even thousands over the lifetime of your car. My name is Craig from Flying Wheels, and these are my 10 car life hacks. Let's get going. Number one, most people know the Abraham Lincoln head and tire tread trick, but I'm gonna show you a few other facts that you need to know about your tires. Now, not everybody has a tread depth gauge like your mechanic does or your tire shop locally. So if you have a penny and you stick it upside down, if Abraham Lincoln's head doesn't show, your tire tread is okay. But there's a few more facts that you should know about your tires. For example, the tires on this Hyundai Accent are grossly unsafe. It doesn't even matter if you're in a snowstorm or rain or even on dry weather. If you stop, these tires don't have enough tread to stop you in time and can cause an accident with you and your children in the car. So there are a few things to look at. Number one, we can see secondary rubber on the side of your tire. There are 2 layers of rubber on tires, and when your first layer is worn so far down, you'll start seeing the secondary layer, typically on the outside tread of your tire. Now, it's not just on your outside tire that can be unsafe as well. If a tire is overinflated, you'll oftentimes see this in the middle of your tire and not the outside. So even though it looks like there's tire tread on the outside, the inside can be completely bald as well, which doesn't disperse water appropriately, doesn't stop in the snow as well, and isn't unsafe on dry asphalt. Now, if we look right here, the tire tread is lined up with the wear bar. Now, I showed you how Abraham Lincoln's head works, and I also said that not everybody has a tread depth gauge, and that's okay. This right here is called a wear bar. It's typically 2/32 of an inch. Anything below that is considered unsafe for the road. So if your tire tread matches the same depth of your wear bar, your tire is not safe for the road. Now, for example, on this Nissan Altima, we can see inside the tread depth where I showed you Abraham Lincoln's penny, there is plenty of distance from the tire tread to the wear bar. These tires are perfectly safe. Now, what happens if your tire is unsafe, but you still have tire tread? Like the tires on this Corvette. If I stick a penny upside down inside the tread of this Corvette, it shows that we have plenty of tread depth. However, if I take a deeper look inside the tire tread, we'll see dry rot cracks in between all of the tires. Now, if cars sit on parking lots and pavements for too long, if they sit in moisture for too long, or just generally don't get used enough, they typically tend to get dry rot cracks throughout the entire tire. Now, anything over an inch is considered unsafe and something you want to consider replacing. It doesn't just happen in between the tire tread, it can also happen on the sidewall here. There's nothing over an inch, but we can see that the rubber is starting to crack all the way around the sidewall. Now, there's one other way you can tell if your tire is too old. If we look at the sidewall, we'll see the DOT stamp right here. If you look at the first digit next to it, that is the week it was manufactured, and then we look at the last 2 is the year it was manufactured. For example, this was manufactured the 3rd week of 2021, which makes this under 10 years old, so it is safe as far as the age of the tire goes. Typically, we don't want to see a tire older than 10 years on the road still. Car tip number 2, oftentimes you'll hear a car rattling from down the road. It sounds horrendous. It also sounds like a really expensive repair. It's actually not. Let me show you what's going on underneath your car. So this right here is your exhaust underneath the car, and you can see this plate is just tack welded onto the exhaust. The exhaust gets really, really hot, and these are called heat shields. They help protect the heat and disperse appropriately, but sometimes those tack welds or even this band right here breaks off, and you'll get this heat shield rattling against your exhaust. So a very quick, very inexpensive repair to these heat shields is a hose clamp right here. You can connect, these hose clamps come in all sizes. You can wrap it around the heat shield and tighten it up, and problem solved. And there's also heat shields all up and down the exhaust, so don't be afraid to turn your car on, go underneath and listen for that rattle. You can tighten it up yourself for a few dollars instead of a few $100s. Now be careful, the exhaust is hot. You don't want to burn yourself. Car hack life tip. So this Honda Element plastic is insanely faded, unlike the plastic on this brand new Jeep Wrangler. But even though it's near new, we're in Florida and the sun is beating this too. It's starting to fade in here. I'm going to show you how you can bring this plastic back to life real quick. Number one, if you have a propane torch, it's going to work a lot quicker. However, you can melt your plastic. You can do a lot of damage, so beware. I'm telling you can do it. I'm telling you shouldn't do it. In lieu of that, a heat gun. This is like $30 at my local parts store. If I turn it on right here, oh, get in real close like that. It's going to bring all this plastic back to life. It brings the oils to the top of the plastic. Be careful, because if you do it too long, this plastic will get brittle with time. So be careful how long you're keeping the heat gun on your plastic. But you're gonna start to see that this plastic is coming back to life. The reason I'm doing this and not using some like back to black silicone is because that is very, very temporary. The silicone is just gonna wear off in the rain. See what's happening right now? The silicone will run off, it will be sticky, it will be slimy, and it's just gonna wear off with time, versus this is actually bringing our plastic back to life. And if you didn't know before, now you know. For tip number 4, we're going under the hood of this Nissan Altima. Now, over time, parts get worn, parts get dirty, parts get gross. There are certain things that people don't think to clean. One being your mass airflow sensor. Now, after I lift up the hood, I will first find the air box. Here is my air box right here. I am going to follow it to electrical connections. Look for your mass airflow sensor. The mass airflow sensor will have a screen on it, and it can oftentimes get clogged with dirt and debris. You do not want to clean it with brake clean. There is a chemical called mass airflow cleaner. Just take the mass airflow cleaner and spray everything out. It's going to clean your mass airflow sensor and save you a lot of money and make your car run a heck of a lot better. If there's a code on your car for a mass airflow sensor, they're very easily replaceable. Sometimes they do need a relearn, which oftentimes you can find right on YouTube, and you can do it yourself and save you thousands of dollars. There are 2 items on your vehicle that people often neglect. They never think about it, and you can replace these items in under 15 minutes together, and it will save you hundreds of dollars versus going to the dealer. Right here is my air box. If I just flip these 2 clips off and lift my air box up right here, you will see your air filter. This one right here isn't completely dirty, but it's not clean either. You saw me do this in 20 seconds. Out with the old, in with the new, put your air box back on, reclip, air filter replaced in under 60 seconds. Now, there is a part 2 to this that will save you even more money. Follow me. Does your car stink? Does your blower motor make weird noise? Does it feel like there just isn't enough air coming out of your fan? Well, it could be your cabin filter. Oftentimes, behind your glove box, Google where your cabin filter location is, but most of the time it is behind your glove box. So if you drop your glove box down just like this, and then you pull on the sides, there are clips, plastic clips on both sides. Pull them in and pull the glove box down. I'm moving from the Altima because there was a procedure to it. You're gonna have to YouTube it. But for Wranglers and most vehicles, it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna open the glove box a little bit. There's a tab right here I'm gonna push. And then did you see how much easier that was compared to the flipping Altima? So many swear words in that car. Then right here is a door. We're just going to open this door, and right there is a cabin air filter. You can change that out. It pulls out, swap the new one in. A dealer's gonna charge you like $150 to do that. You can do that yourself, and it's probably an $11 to $15 part. So there you go. Save yourself some money. Replace your cabin air filter every 6 months to 12 months. Tip number, I don't even know what we're at. My check engine light is on. I'm not going to sell you anything. I am just going to teach you how to diagnose it without paying a mechanic to do the same exact thing. Now, not every one of you has a $1,000 scan tool that's Bluetooth ready, but you can get yourself a $30 scan tool at your local parts store or online. Now, every car after 1996 was equipped with an OBD2 emissions monitoring system. Underneath your dash, typically, sometimes it's behind an ashtray if your car has an ashtray. Sometimes it's in your center console. Do a Google search to figure out where your OBD port is. Mine is located right here on this Jeep Wrangler. Now, if I plug the scan tool underneath the car right into I got it the first try. Oh my gosh, that never happens. It will show up and I have the option to scan. From there, it will scan and tell me if there are any codes. There are typically 8 monitors in your system that need to cycle to tell you if all readiness monitors are complete, especially for emissions inspections purposes. If all 8 monitors have been completed with no check engine light, your drive cycle has been completed and your car is safe to drive. If there are any incomplete monitors, it means your system has not fully tested and checked everything in the car. Now, if you do have a check engine light on or a multi-indicator light on, your scan tool will tell you. It will also tell you the code. Something as simple as this one will give you the code. From there, you go to Google with the code and you can semi-diagnose your vehicle. It will tell you what's typically wrong with your year, make, model with that code, and you can decide whether it's something you want to repair or replace on your own, or take it to a mechanic if it's a bigger repair. Now, if it's something like a gas cap, I'm going to show you how to fix that in just a second. If it's little, minor, you can clear it out by hitting the erase button, drive it another drive cycle for all 8 monitors, and if nothing comes back, it was a temporary code, it's gone, it's fixed. This is typically a Jeep Wrangler issue, but sometimes your check engine light will come on for an eval evap leak and you cannot figure out where that leak is coming from for the life of you. It could be anywhere. But the first place I'd check is your gas cap. So these gas caps can be faulty, they can be defective, and they can just wear over time. Sometimes it's as little as the seal around the ring or the vent inside the cap itself. If the cap has been replaced, it could be the seal around the cap in the fuel filler neck too. Check your gas cap. That's a great place to start. Does your window go up and down slowly? It might not actually be an expensive repair. If your window was ever tinted and somebody removed the window tint, there's a good chance they didn't actually remove the glue off the backing of the window, which creates a very sticky adhesive on the inside of your window glass. That is going to stick to your window sweeps, slowing the window up and down. Now that is going to prematurely wear your window regulator as well as your window motor, causing an expensive repair and replacement later. But before you go ahead and replace those parts, an ammonia-based glass cleaner will remove all of that adhesive. And if that doesn't work or you don't have it, try some WD-40 with a razor blade. Now this will make a mess, so make sure to cover everything. But spraying your window with WD-40 and scraping it off with a razor blade will remove all of that glue. Now if the inside of your windows are not sticky, try this instead. Over time, the rubber on the inside of the windows could get extra tacky, extra sticky, or just wear out. Try a silicone-based lubricant on the inside of these windows. Spray them here. It will help lubricate the windows from going up and down a little bit easier and also solve a premature wear on your window regulator and your window motor. And my 10th and final tip, DIY life hack, an absolute imperative must to have in your car are zip ties. Get yourself an assortment of zip ties in all sizes and colors. Why do you want a zip tie? Well, if you or someone near you gets into an accident, you may need to tie up a bumper temporarily. You may need to affix something in place somewhere. I can't give you an example, but there will be 1,000 times that you find a use for a zip tie. Always keep an assortment of sizes of zip ties in your car, preferably in your glove box. You'll need it and you'll be happy you have it. My name is Craig from Flying Wheels. These were 10 quick life hack car DIY tips to save you money. I hope it was helpful, and if it was informative, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up and a like, and comment, tell me what you did, what you didn't like about this video, and your favorite tip. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all later. Adios.